Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Quarantine Kitchen. Today's recipe, we are going to be making gluten-free vegan BLTs. And that would be Banacon BLTs, a term I just coined. So obviously the bread is going to be gluten-free and I'll walk you through how to make that. And then for the sandwich itself, one of my favorite sandwiches is a BLT. But I can't eat bacon because I have developed an allergy to it. And also I've developed more of a plant-based lifestyle, so obviously bacon doesn't fit into that category. So we're going to be using banana peels to make bacon today. This is a totally new recipe for me, and I'm really excited to see how it works. So we'll be adventuring in this together. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. First, as per usual, this will be a 3-segment video. The first segment will be making the bread, then making the banacon, and then we'll put the whole sandwich together. So let's get started. All right, we've got our Avengers pajamas on and we are ready to cook. Today's recipe for the gluten-free sandwich bread. I'm going to be using a combination of flours here. I have my gluten-free regular flour. And when you look up gluten-free flour, this is normally what you'll find. If I recall, I'm actually going to look it up. I believe this is a combination of rice flour, a little bit of potato, corn, chia, and all that. This also contains xanthan gum, which is a rising agent, which is going to help the bread not be so dense. However, this is not a yeast-including recipe, so this is going to be a very dense bread. Think like soda bread kind of dense is what we're aiming for. So I'm going to be using some of this. I'm going to be using some more of my sweet potato flour that I got the other day. I'm going to be using a little bit of Himalayan salt, baking powder, melted fat. I'm going to finish off my margarine today, and then I'm probably going to have to add some vegetable oil to that to finish that all up. Oil for my pan and hands, and then I've also got my soy milk to make this bread. So, and somewhere floating around here, there it is, is my measuring cup that we're going to use to measure the dry ingredients. So, the first thing that you're going to want to do is preheat your oven and oil up the loaf pan that you're using. You do not have to use a loaf pan for this recipe. I'm going to because I plan to slice it into bread for my sandwich. So, preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know the conversion rate on that. I'm going to set mine to 230 degrees Celsius, which is not the same temperature, but that's where my oven bakes best. And then I'm also going to oil my pan in just a minute. I recommend a cooking spray. That's the fastest way to do it. Otherwise, you can take some margarine or oil and coat the inside of the pan, and then add a little bit of flour. That will also keep the bread from sticking. That's what I would recommend doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that because I forgot to pull it out before filming, and I will come back in just a minute. I'm going to preheat my oven and pull out my baking pan. Okay, now I'm all set, and we're going to actually start combining the ingredients for today's bread. You need 3 cups of flour. If you are not gluten-free and you would like to use a regular whole wheat flour, you are absolutely allowed to do that. This recipe just calls for 3 cups of flour. I'm going to combine both flours here. I'm going to do about 2 cups of this flour and then a cup of the sweet potato flour. So, brand new bag. Freshly baked. We're going to mix all the dry ingredients together first, provided that I can be smarter than the container. I have an instrument to make sure that happens. Let's try it. Ha ha! Let's make a mess on my counter. I went to the hair salon today. So excited. You can't see it because I keep my hair up when I'm cooking. But wait for that video to come out and I'll share everything I did. That was exciting. This is not working as I had planned. Give me a spoon. I'm impatient. It's the only problem with this, as opposed to like a flour barrel, well, how do you guys keep your flour? I don't know. I know how my mom always kept her flour, which was in a barrel on the floor. So you literally could just like bend down and scoop it in. This is a little over 1 cup. So we're going to put another cup in. It might take up the whole bag, which is actually what I figured was going to happen. Yes, I am getting flour all over my counter. That's required. The bread doesn't taste as good if you don't do that. Resealable bag. I will use that again in another recipe. I'm mixing flours because I want kind of a dynamic taste here. Obviously, if you live in a place like the United States where they don't have a wide variety of flours, you can just use the regular gluten-free. I recommend Bob's Red Mill. That's one of the best flours, and it also often comes with xanthan gum, which is that rising agent that you won't get in things like almond flour or millet flour. That's another popular one. This might work out a little better. We shall see. Measuring out flours, isn't that fun? For the record, if you are not making bread with this recipe, if you have bread at your house and it's easier for you to just use either store-bought gluten-free bread or whatever kind of bread that you like to make sandwiches with, you are welcome to skip past this part and go straight to the Banacon portion of this scenario. So anyway, that is my flour. I'm now adding in 4 teaspoons. This is not a teaspoon. I should probably not try to teach you conversions and actually do it the way I promote it. I was going to use a little more than a tablespoon, which is about the same, but let me show you. So we have 1. Now, it does sound like a lot of baking powder for this recipe. It is a lot of baking powder. The reason for that is with gluten-free flours. And also, actually, not even gluten-free flours. We're not using a yeast in this bread. So what that means is that rising fluffiness that you get from regular bread, you're not going to have here because it doesn't have yeast. This is a yeast-free recipe. The only reason I chose to do a yeast-free recipe is because finding yeast is a pain here because it has the same name as baking powder. I don't know what the similarity between those two are. I need to do some research. I'm now going to add 1 teaspoon of salt to the mixture, and then we're going to mix up the dry ingredients. I'm using pink Himalayan salt only because it's the finer ground of the salts that I currently own. I don't want to use the rock salt in this recipe, just because. The recipe itself calls for this to not be a very sweet bread. So if you like a honey flavor to it, or if you like, I like sweet breads. If it's not sweet, I like sourdough. You may have to add sugar to this, or a little bit of honey, or someone recommended fruit juice. I saw that, and I thought that was interesting to add to this flour. I'm going to use my soy milk, and though it doesn't have additional sugars, it is naturally very sweet. So soy is not naturally sweet. Processed soy milk is often very sweet because nobody likes the taste of plain soy, apparently. So though it doesn't have additional sugar, it does have sugar in it. And that's going to make this bread sweet enough for sandwich bread. I don't really want a sweet bread because this is for a salty meal. But anyway, if you wanted a sweeter bread, add a little bit of sugar at this stage. So now we're going to add 1.5 cups of milk. You can use rice milk, you can use water, you can use regular dairy milk. This is totally up to you. As I've stated, I can't drink milk, so I use soy milk in most of my recipes. 250 divided by 1/2 is 325. I'm becoming fluent in both metric and imperial. There is no eggs in this recipe, so it is technically vegan, depending on what all you add in it. I'm going to mix this up, and then I'm going to add in the melted fat, which I need to melt off camera, because I forgot to do that. I'm not very good at this whole preparing for filming thing. It's one of those, like, I'll be sitting around going, oh, I'm going to make that today, and then I don't even think about it, I just turn the camera on. I can't promise that will improve, but I'm going to make an effort to have everything ready. But this is a real show, and, you know, if you're watching, you've obviously seen some of my episodes before. Or if this is your first time, this is how it is. This is the person you have clicked on to watch, so. Making a dough. I'm going to get in here with my hands in just a minute. The dough should be moist, but it shouldn't be sticky. So you'll have to adjust accordingly. I may have to add more flour. I don't think so. This is actually blending very well. But here in just a second, I'm going to get in here with my hands and make the dough, mix the dough that way. You don't want to overwork the dough because it can cause some of the compounds to break down, and then your bread becomes very flat, even denser than it already is. So that's one of the things you need to be careful with. So I'm going to melt a 1/4 cup of margarine, and I'm probably going to have to add a little bit of oil to it to get that 1/4 cup. And then before I add it to the mixture, I'll be right back. Finish melting the butter, and now I'm going to add that to the bowl, and then I'm going to put it on the table and mix that in to make your dough. There's a sink behind me in case you didn't know that. So I'm mixing it with a spoon first, and then I'm going to plop it down here on my counter. I'm just making a ball of dough. I'm not really kneading it. I'm just making sure everything is mixed in together into the dough, so I don't have like dry spots of flour, because that can really kill a recipe. You don't have to worry about proofing with this. The reason for that is because there's no yeast in the bread, and because there's no yeast in the bread, there is no proofing. So proofing is when you allow the yeast to have a chemical reaction. Yeah, in case you didn't know. When we say we have to proof the yeast, that means that you have to let the yeast have a chemical reaction before adding it to your ingredients. And then also after proofing with normal bread that has a yeast in its recipe, you then have to let the bread rise. This bread doesn't have to do that because there is no yeast. The only rising agents that we have in this, actually I think it's called leavening agents, would be the xanthan gum and the baking powder. That's why there's so much baking powder in this recipe. So it should be moist, it should feel wet, but it shouldn't be like sticky. Like it shouldn't stick to your hands. And then I'm going to put that into my oiled bread pan. Give it a chance to rise. We'll see. My bread could come out this small. It may rise the way it should. We'll see. I'm now going to score the top of my bread with a knife. That just means I'm lightly going to cut it, and that's going to allow the bread to rise without being stuck in the crust. When you look at bread from a bakery, especially if it doesn't have yeast in it, you will often see like it has a pretty design on it. That's from scoring the bread. So that's all we're going to do. It's not going to be anything fancy. I'm literally just going to do a quick X so that it has a chance to expand if it needs to. That's literally it. Can't even see that. Okay, so now this is going to go into the oven at 375. Mine's actually probably closer to 400, and then I'm going to bake it for about 40 minutes until a toothpick comes out clean. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and do that, and then I will see you in part 2 for making the Welcome back to part 2 of the vegan BLT, where we're going to be making vegan bacon. This is completely new for me. I can't eat pork, so I can't eat bacon, but it's still one of my favorite recipes. And I've seen a lot of recipes online for like carrot bacon. I've seen eggplant bacon, tempeh. It seems to be a common ingredient that a lot of people are looking for. So to find the recipe was actually really easy. We're going to be doing it from banana peels. And the reason this intrigued me more than the carrot or whatever is because I use bananas in my smoothies all the time. And the idea of reducing the waste that I make and eating part of a fruit that I already eat that might have more vitamins or whatever sounds totally intriguing. So we're going to go on this adventure together. So for this recipe, we need 2 bananas that are, it recommends very ripe or overripe bananas. I'm using, in my definition, a ripe banana. I hope that doesn't kill the flavor, but it might. So we shall see. You're going to need soy sauce. If you're gluten-free like I am, make sure it is gluten-free. If you're whole foods plant-based or trying to avoid soy, you may also use coconut aminos, which is the protein from a coconut, which smells and tastes just like soy sauce. I'm going to be using gluten-free soy sauce. Garlic. It calls for maple syrup. I don't use maple syrup in my life. I do use honey, so we're going to use that to supplement. Smoked paprika. I'm using my spicy paprika. And then I also am going to add some of my masa em pó, which means smoked in powder. I can read Portuguese. Speaking is a little difficult for me, but I can read it, no problem. So I'm going to be using a little bit of my smoked flavoring as well. So obviously the first thing we need to do is peel the bananas. Let me get a knife because that may come in handy in a minute. In case you didn't know how to peel a banana. It recommends to split the banana peel into about 4 slices per banana. I'm going to use this banana in my smoothie, both bananas, so I'm going to put those in a bowl and then set them to the side here in a minute. So I'm going to cut off the stem portion on both ends. Can you see what I'm doing? Probably not. I'm cutting off this part and this part of the banana peels because I just can't imagine that would improve any of this. So that's what I'm doing. That's all I did right there aside from peeling the banana. And then it says about 4 strips per peel. I'm going to make about 5, I think. I should probably do this after I prepare it, but it's a learning experience. We're all in this together. Okay, I'm going to peel the second banana. And then same thing, I'm going to cut off the top and bottom part, just because I can't imagine that would be beneficial for anybody to eat. Okay, I'm going to split it into my sections. I have a little one here. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm going to set the bananas aside. We have to prepare the banana peel. So I'm going to take a spoon, and if you look at the inside of a banana peel, you'll see that it has a lot of that white like pith from the banana, and we are removing that with a spoon. It says until just the peel is left, so I'm not 100% sure how much to remove. I'd rather remove too much than not enough in this particular case. So I think this is what we're going to aim for. So it's thin, and I'm going to set the prepareds over here. Make a little pile of the stuff, and then that's what we're going to do. We're going to prepare each of the peels. This is so strange to me. If it works, I'm going to be amazed. If it works and tastes good. I mean, I'm sure I'll make something that's crispy and resembles bacon, but whether or not it tastes good is the ultimate objective. So we'll see. I'm totally intrigued with this idea, more so than carrot bacon, because I know you can do it with carrot. And that's not even like unique. Carrot dogs are very much a vegan thing, where you turn a carrot into a hot dog. It's actually really good. I have a recipe on my blog if anybody wants to read that. I made carrot dogs and coleslaw for one of my recipes for a barbecue. So bacon thing, we'll see. But I know you could. I have no doubt that you could do it with carrot, because with a marinade you can make anything taste like anything. I hope this works. I mean, just because it's so cool, just because it's something I've never heard of before, that's why I hope it works. Is that weird? I hope. It's hard to tell. I'm not entirely sure how much I was supposed to use. It just said remove the white part. And I'm going what I think is a little more than necessary. But some of these are super thin. Like this one's really thin. I don't have too much. I'd rather it be paper thin and crispy than have like some part of the pith. Have some part of the pith that ruins the flavor. You know what I mean? So I'm just going to go give these one more scrape. Okay, so after we do this, then we're going to make a marinade. And we're going to soak the banana peels in the marinade for, it says 10 minutes up to a couple of hours. I'm probably going to do it for about an hour or so. It's still middle of the afternoon here, so I've got some time. I feel better about those. Okay, so there's the equivalent of one banana peel. Let's work on the second banana peel. Good news is this is easy. I mean, it's no more difficult than peeling a carrot. So at least effort-wise, this has the advantage. Because if it's going to be weird and difficult to do, why would you do that? But if it's just weird for the sake of being weird, I'm all for that idea. That's not what I meant. I know that's what I said, but that's not actually what I meant. If it's weird and practical, that's what I'm talking about. If it's just weird for the sake of being weird and it's not practical, then what would be the point of that? I'll just peel a carrot. We're almost done. We've got two more after this. And I feel like I would spend the same amount of time peeling a carrot into bacon-sized slices. So again, I don't feel, it feels right. I mean, it looks like the picture, so. I'll also post this recipe because this is not one of my own. I will post this recipe in the description so that you guys can go check out how I followed the vegan bacon thing as well. Because I'm all for giving credit where credit is due. I feel better now that I'm making it a little thinner. I feel like I could bite into that and not gag. We'll see. All right, last one. For the record, my bread is cooking, and it is very warm in here. But I want to get this on to marinade so that everything is done at the same time. Okay, I'm going to rinse off my banana spoon. And now we're going to make the marinade. And it is 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. Ow! Unopened soy sauce container. Add a little bit more. Okay, and then it is 1 tablespoon of honey. Maple syrup is actually what the recipe calls for. Like I said, I'm using honey because that's what I own. And Quarantine Kitchen is all about what is on hand. Okay. Then it is a half teaspoon of paprika and a half teaspoon of garlic. I'm using the smoked powder, the paprika, and the garlic. I'm adding an extra dimension of flavor here. So that's a lot. Half teaspoon. Half teaspoon. That's not making a whole lot of marinade here. Half teaspoon. Okay. Now we're going to mix that up, I guess, into a paste. And then we're going to cover the banana peels in this mixture. I'm then going to put it, actually I'm going to leave it on the counter. It doesn't have to be refrigerated. Bananas they're not normally refrigerated. And I also think the heat is going to help it absorb more. Okay. Put our banana peels in here. This is so weird. I hope this works. I hope it works and I hope it's delicious. So that when people are like, how do you make your bacon? I'll be like, I make banana peels. Doesn't everybody? And then I'm going to stir to make sure they're all coated with the marinade. This looks right. This feels right. I'm not worried. Well, worried was never this. That's the beauty of this recipe, is that it's not like I'm losing anything if it goes terribly wrong. I mean, it's literally something I was going to throw away. Anyway. Okay, so I've now coated the banana peels in the marinade. I'm going to put a lid on it, and I'm going to set it, actually, because they did start to oxidize, I am going to put it in my fridge. I know I just talked about leaving it on the counter, but I am going to put it in the fridge just because they did start to oxidize in that amount of time. So they're coated, and we're going to put them in the fridge, and I will come back when it's time to cook them. All right, our bread is finished, pulled out of the oven. It did raise. I'm very happy. It's got a nice crust on it. So that is ready to go. So now I'm going to let it cool for a little bit and then finish the Banacon, make slices, and then we will have ourselves a sandwich. It's time to try to cook this Banacon. So I've put about a tablespoon of oil. I'm going to heat this up on the stove because we're going to fry the banana strips the way we would bacon. So you're going to cook it until it starts to become bubbly and it's going to blacken. There's supposed to be a lot of smoke. That's it. And you're going to cook the bacon. When you're done, you're going to lay it on a paper towel to drain. And after I've done all that, after it's cooked and on the paper towel and it's cooled down enough, I'm going to try a piece live because I need to know what this is like. So that's the next step. So I'm going to go ahead and cook it, put it on a paper towel for you to see, and then we're going to come back for the live taste test of this Banacon. We have Banacon. This is what it came out looking like. So, yeah, the smoke thing is real. I'm about to open up my windows and let that air out. It doesn't really smell like anything, so I guess we're down to the taste test. I'm going to have a little sample piece. Nice and crisp, so that's a positive thing. And here we go. Live video. Holy crow. It's a thing. That is delicious. I totally didn't think it was going to work. Oh my gosh. It doesn't taste like bacon. Let's be clear about that. It definitely tastes like the marinade. That's really good, though. I have found a new recipe. Holy crow, that is really good, you guys. Whoa, all right, I'm super excited. Okay, Banacon is a new thing, and I'm totally eating Banacon with my sandwiches from now on, because that was really easy to make. Sorry, I'm speechless. I don't actually know what to say. Totally worth it. Make this at home. Give it a try. I can't wait to put this on my sandwich. It is salty. It does not taste like banana because I didn't use very ripe bananas. There's no banana taste. It's not very sweet. I would have liked it if there was a little hint of sweetness, but I can taste all those flavors that were in the marinade. And the texture is really good. It's not quite as thick and chompy as bacon is, but it's perfect for the crispiness I want on my sandwich. I'm probably going to put all of these on one sandwich because they are really thin and there isn't a whole lot of them. But, wow, I'm thrilled. All right, so I'm going to put together a sandwich and do you want me to show that to you on camera? I guess I will. So I'll show you how to put together a sandwich. And then we will have a vegan BLT. All right, I'm going to show you how to put together a sandwich. It feels like the only way to wrap up this really interesting video. I have 4 pieces of bread. Because of how small they came out, I am using 4 pieces, which is fine. I have some veganese, I think is how it's pronounced, vegan mayonnaise on the bread. If you don't like to do this, you don't have to. I like mayonnaise on my BLTs. So I'm literally just spreading it around. I've cut up the 3 key ingredients to a BLT, which would be bacon, lettuce, and tomato. Put my lettuce on. This feels really silly, but I don't know how else to show you how to assemble a sandwich. So, lettuce, tomato, and then I'm going to put a couple pieces of Banacon on there. How amazing is that? I can't believe it came out so good. I'm actually like in shock. Not all of it's crispy, as you can tell. Most of it did though, as it cooled down. Let's put that one in. And then we're going to top it with a piece of bread. And there you go. There is your vegan BLT. All right, that was amazing. I'm so excited to eat this, guys. Thank you for joining me. Happy cooking.